Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for taking some time out of your busy days to join us this afternoon. Obviously, it's a nice idea to have a lunch and learn session, and we're very keen to go through today's topic, which I'm sure you'll find is a great use of your time. So, yeah, without further ado, I'll introduce ourselves. So, my name is Tony Douglas. Most of you should know me. I am the Strategic Partnerships Manager for APS across Australia and New Zealand. And today I'm joined by Trudy Saul. Trudy is the Marketing Manager at FuseWorks and has been working with the accounting industry now for over 12 years. Worked very closely with Trudy, and she shares her time between their affiliated accounting practice, which is located in Brisbane, and also working, of course, with the FuseWorks team. And today we're going to hear a little bit about how they have identified opportunities for automation within their own practice. Good afternoon, Trudy.
Hi, Tony. Hi, everybody. Thank you all so much for spending some time out of your day to join us today. I feel quite privileged, really, because I believe that time really is our most precious commodity. So thank you again for taking this 45 minutes out, and I promise we're going to be spending it wisely. So what we're all here about today is time. It's really our most precious resource. But perhaps it's also our most undervalued, which is really what I want to talk to you guys all about today. So as you're sitting there, maybe have a think. Have you actively, perhaps over the last week or so, wished that a day would go by quickly? Have you found yourself sitting at your desk looking at the clock? Perhaps you've been up to your elbows in emails, or you might have been frustrated at a particular process or a task you have to complete. I know I certainly have caught myself doing that. And I find it quite funny, actually, because while we're sitting here wishing that time would speed up so that we can move past those frustrations, doesn't it always just feel like we never have quite enough time to be doing what we actually want to be doing? I know I often have conversations, certainly with colleagues and other clients, and I often, I say, "How are you?" And more often than not, I'm greeted with a pretty familiar response, something along the lines of, "Oh, I'm good. I'm just so busy." And don't get me wrong, being busy is good if it's a good busy. But here we are, sitting at our desks, wishing time away because we're busy spending it on all the wrong things. So at FuseWorks, we're all about helping you to find and create that time so that you can actually have the time you need to focus on what matters. And these days, that's about engaging with clients, developing new products or service offerings. It might be engaging in practice or professional development, something we don't often get very much time to do. Or what matters might actually be getting to leave the office at 5 o'clock and being able to be fully present with your loved ones. Okay, so that all sounds well and good, but how do we actually find the time to do those things? Well, we could work longer. Who'd like to do that? We could hire more staff, or we could outsource different elements of our day-to-day life. But today I don't want to talk to you about any of these solutions because the reality is we're already working too much and we probably don't need any more staff. In fact, roughly only 30% of our workday is spent on truly productive work, the work that we really should be doing. And the other 70% is spent on low-value administrative manual tasks, or it's simply wasted trying to avoid those. Think back to how you might have spent your day yesterday or on Tuesday. How much of that was actually spent doing what you should have been? I'm sure there were more than a handful on the line that might have muttered a silent curse over trying to locate a file or finding a typo in a report, having to rerun it, perhaps even just frustration at the computer not working the way that you want it to be. And I think it's a pretty shocking statistic, really, when we think about it, how we spend our most valuable resource, because either you're paying highly qualified, skilled people to sit around and do dumb things, or you're sitting there feeling incredibly undervalued because you have to do those tasks yourself. And that's not really a nice reality, I don't think, for anyone. I'm going to harp on a bit about it today, but our time is precious, and being in the business of time, I think it's ironic that we don't respect it a little bit more. So today, what I wanted to do instead was talk to you about an alternative, and that's giving the tasks that are chewing up our most valuable asset to someone or something that's really good at them. So you might have guessed it, I am talking, of course, about robots. Robotic process automation might sound like science fiction, but it's actually a technology trend that's already pretty heavily used in financial services, and accounting has a lot to gain by jumping on board with this trend. But what does RPA actually mean? Well, it's about taking a process which is otherwise performed manually by hand and automating it by deploying clever little bots and software tools that can be designed and implemented to perform really any repeatable task at a relatively low cost. So let's take a look at a couple of examples. Logging into a number of applications to complete a process, well, a bot can be programmed to execute the same process, accessing the same programs that the human does. Perhaps you get to 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you mistype a report name or you include the wrong entity. I know I'm certainly guilty of that. Well, a robot can be on call and alert to take care of that for us. Or perhaps you're running a debtors report each week and you might be emailing your clients to remind them to pay an invoice. A robot can pick up the data based on set variables and fire off standard emails, pre-filling personal items with information from your existing data. I know the APS BPA alerts that are a great example of this automation in practice. But you get the idea. I guess automating your existing systems and processes is one of the easiest ways to boost your productivity and efficiency in your office. It's much simpler to implement an automation solution that optimizes your current systems than to add a raft of new apps or management programs into your technology stack. The truth is that these automations don't have to be technical or extensive or, even require a new program to improve your efficiency. So it could be as simple as implementing an Excel report hooked up to your database. Tony, I know you have a similar rule to this setup, but one nifty one that saved me about 300 hours a year is simply creating an auto-filter rule in my inbox. So I've set anything with the word unsubscribe in the body of that email to filter off into a separate subscriptions inbox that I simply flick through once a week, unsubscribing as needed. That's certainly reduced distractions and saved me hours. Tony, I think you have a pretty similar example.
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Trudy. Obviously, I was feeling under pressure with lots and lots of emails hitting my inbox every day, and I found that as I was working my way through them, a lot of them didn't actually require my most immediate attention. So I set up a rule in my Outlook where if something's addressed to me personally, it hits my inbox. If I'm CC'd or blind copied on it, it goes into a separate reading folder, and I catch up on that at the end of the day, and I've found that's really alleviated my stress in terms of the number of documents I actually have to action in my inbox.
Yeah, fantastic. It's those are great, simple automation examples that actually have huge potential just to, help us be more focused, less distracted, and at the end of the day, be a bit more productive and efficient in what we're doing. So they don't have to be technical to be able for you guys to reap the benefits of automations, but before you go diving into formulas and email rules, a bit of a word of warning. An automation really is only as good as the data and the process upon which it's built. So before I go any further today, I just want to touch on some of the fundamental systems that we find most accounting businesses need to give some love to truly be able to reap the benefits of automation. So first off, start by taking a step back to view your process in its entirety. Ask yourself, why are you doing it? What's the value of the process to your team and, more importantly, to your client? Who looks after the information or process before it gets to you? And where does that information go? So if you can answer those questions, then that'll give you a more complete picture of the elements that can be automated, and it will also identify what steps might need a bit more attention than others. And not only that, but if you're the person who's putting forward a proposal for a process improvement that may involve some investment of time or have a price attached to that, by understanding this value that the process is delivering, you'll be able to demonstrate the return on investment to the business and really give the project some traction. So definitely recommend taking a step back, map out the processes that are fundamental to your business. So next, you want to spend some time cleaning up your data because it is, after all, the backbone of our products and services. So it's really vital that we look after it. I wonder if there's many people on the line that can say with confidence that your APS database is 100% accurate. I know that I'm not 100% on that, which is funny because we all hate the idea of sending an email to a dead person. When our data is not maintained, something as simple as a primary contact name or that incorrect email address can have damaging repercussions on client relationships. So you should think about running an integrity check or an audit on your data every 6 months or so. Tony, I might just get you to tap in here and highlight if there's any tools within APS that can be good to support this.
Yeah, thanks, Trudy. So I guess we'd start with client lists. Obviously, client lists are quite a simple tool, but can be quite powerful when you use them properly. So where I say those being used to be able to clean up your data is to run some queries on your client data, and you can take that data out to Excel and use that to identify where the gaps and the misnomers are. Once you've done that, obviously, what do you do with that information? Well, we've been working pretty hard in APS to provide a lot more self-service tools to help you to keep your data up to date in recent releases. So first of all, with Practice Management 11, we gave you a whole new tool that allows you to do bulk attribute updates. So being able to supersede certain records in your database with others in order to clean all of those up. Now, if that isn't enough for what you're trying to achieve, today you can always contact our support team. We also have a list, or a library, I should say, of SQL scripts that we can run on your database to clean things up. The reason we like you to contact us is sometimes they need to be tweaked just for your specific database, but it's always an option you have up your sleeve. We've also put a new tool out with PM 11.2, which allows you to update existing data sets in bulk. So for example, if you want to get your team who add records into your database to be able to be prompted to record a lot more fields as mandatory, you can also now control which fields appear on adding screens throughout APS and which ones of those fields are mandatory, whereas in the past you had to come to us to get you to do that. And last but not least, we've got BPA, or Business Process Automation as it's called. The whole purpose of that tool is to help to automate lots of different processes across what we're talking about today. But from a clean-up perspective, where BPA is really good is if you spend time cleaning up your data, BPA can help you to keep it clean from that point moving forward by alerting you where there are misnomers or gaps once people start editing that nice clean data. Thanks, Trudy.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, definitely, running those lists and doing a bit of an audit every 6 months or so, because it's amazing, when you've got a lot of people making changes to the data inside there, just how quickly you can lose track of what's happening and making sure it's all updated. So finally, you need to implement or certainly tighten up on the naming conventions and save locations where you're storing all of this other information and client data. Process automation software runs on predetermined rules that are configured specific to your practice. So luckily, most document management systems store attributes such as the year and the entity in a really accessible way. And that means that we can focus on the document name or description, which is really important. So if you're using a system like Windows File Explorer, that's all right as well. There's just a little bit more work to do to consider how those attributes are allocated to the document. For example, that might be through folder structures like an entity folder and a year folder, or naming conventions, or most likely some combination of both of those. So there are plenty of options for you here, but what's most important is that it's standard and that standard is defined and it can be followed by whoever is saving the document. So where your team are filing their documents is just as important as how they're filing them. So this could be in a formal document management system. Perhaps you're using VC or iManage, or it could be directly from a downloads folder. The important thing here is that each document type is stored or found in a consistent place every time. So think about doing your grocery shopping and finding that the milk was in a different aisle every time you went to the shop. That would be a lot of wasted time spent looking for something you consistently need. And the same logic applies to the types of documents that your team are accessing and storing frequently. Okay, so once you've created a bit of a robot paradise, the sky really is the limit, and it's a case of what rather than when can you automate. So how do you actually identify the perfect tasks for automation? Well, start by asking your team. We find it's really easy to fall prey to the do what you've always done trap and push change to the side when you get busy. But incremental shifts and changes in the way we work to free time come about by pausing and simply asking the question, is there a smarter way, or can this be done differently? So it's really important to make sure that you're carving out time and dedicating space for you and your team to start exploring these questions. Ask your team, what processes are driving you crazy? What's frustrating you? What's annoying you? What do you wish you didn't have to do? That can be over a brainstorming session, or you might have a regular time slot set aside for practice development every month or so. You also want to look for tasks that you have to complete more than once. So this one might seem obvious, but it might actually surprise you how many tasks fall into this bucket. Regular and repeated processes that are central to your business operation are the prime candidates for automation. So if someone in your team, yourself included, is having to complete the same task multiple times per day or per week, map out the steps involved to highlight the opportunities for workflow automation within that process. So for example, if you're repeatedly running custom reports, that could lend itself to a template. You also want to think about processes that happen over and over again with inconsistent outcomes. So this one can be a little bit more difficult to spot, particularly if your process involves different team members. So if you're repeating a process but ending up with inconsistencies in the outcome each time when there really shouldn't be, it could mean that it's time to look at automating that process. By building some business rules into your automated solution, you can also often make decisions once rather than every time the process is performed. And then you can ensure that you get a consistent quality of the outcome of that process, no matter who on your team is completing the work. So a simple example of this might be putting together a contents page for a document. Doing that can be very error-prone to typos or formatting changes, or if you make a change to the document, you can often forget to go and update the table of contents. So you might be able to automate the preparation of this, and that will allow you to achieve a consistent outcome on that every time. So you also want to look for processes that have multiple people involved. If there are 3 or more people actively involved in a workflow, it's going to be a lot more difficult for the process to run efficiently. Processes tracked by email or manually, or those that are manually updated, have a lot more opportunity to be mishandled. There's potential for communication lines to be crossed, for responsibilities to be blurred, and those things just make these processes the perfect targets for automation. So a tip here is to keep an eye out for back and forth tasks or exchanges between team members, or if you've got email trails, look out for those and try to piece out or pull out the questions that consistently come up between the people that are involved. So a great example here might be a client onboarding and engagement process where you need to prepare a series of documents and engagement letters, and a client service team member, a client manager, and a director may all be involved in that process. So lots of opportunity to automate that and try to remove some of the ambiguity and errors that happen along that process line. And finally, I couldn't recommend this one highly enough, but jump on the tools. So by now you might already actually be starting to think about a handful of processes in your own business and wondering if they really are the best use of you or your team's time, and wondering if there's some potential to automate those. The truth is there's really no shortage of tech tools around to help accounting firms be more efficient and more productive and give you back time. But in our own experience, there's pretty little appetite existing to embrace such tools until the partners or directors themselves actually endure their inefficiencies and experience those within their practice firsthand, or at least have their eyes open to what their team are actually doing and the often outdated ways that they're doing it. So Tony mentioned we have our affiliated accounting practice in Brisbane, and we actually challenged our one of our directors, Adam, to jump on the tools and do something he hadn't done in a very long time, and that was produce a full set of financials and tax returns for a family group from start to finish. And we asked him to do this so that he could get a feel of what was going on in the engine room with our accountants. And his brief was to jot down the thoughts and the feelings that he had along the way. And during that process, he uncovered one frustration in particular that I know is echoed across many practices, and that's specifically in the time-consuming and repetitive process that has to happen not once, you've done all of the work, you've prepared the financials, you've done the tax returns, but actually the process that has to happen when it comes to compiling those documents and delivering that work to the client. So I'm talking about the compilation of a client report pack. And that often involves manually merging, various Word, Excel, PDF documents together into a nice looking report pack that you send to your client. So quite often firms have a mixture of productive or non-productive staff doing various bits of this process. So your accountants might complete the financials and tax returns in APS, and then generally one of two things tend to happen. The accountants download or generate the documents and spend maybe the next 45 minutes putting those documents into order, combining files, formatting reports, or the accountants pass a list of everything that needs to go to the client service team. And they repeat that process, send it back to the accountant to check. Perhaps it needs to be edited or updated. Maybe a document has been missed or the wrong document's been included. And sometime later, we get to a point where we have finally a pack of documents that we can send to the client. And that might be by email, you might post them, or perhaps you're using a portal like Virtual Cabinet Portal, so you upload those to the portal. It's a pretty lengthy process, and hopefully it's one that those of you on the line are understanding or you're familiar with that. And maybe you're not so sure about the amount of time that it's taking, but it is lengthy, but it has to be done. And I think the big question that we came to is by who? So when Adam jumped on the tools and ran through this process, he saw firsthand that he had smart people that he was paying well, sitting around doing some dumb things, some things that they shouldn't have been doing, and it wasn't the best use of their time. So to put it into perspective, think about how many client groups you have in your own practice. There was a recent Good, Bad, Ugly report that listed there's around 280 clients on average per partner. So if someone in your team is spending at least 45 minutes mucking around to prepare a report, that's about over 400 hours of time spent compiling client reports for a two-partner practice. And it's just about 25% of your administration capacity. And that's just in one process. It's pretty staggering, really, and it doesn't just stop at annual compliance or financial statement report packs. These electronic documents really are the cornerstones of our business. It might be your client engagement packages, preparing pages for signature, compiling management reports. But what if you could simply click a button and magically have those documents pulled together from wherever they've been housed? Might be your server, the internet, across different platforms and different types, even from your document management system, so VC or iManage or another system that you might be using. Have those automatically pulled into one spot with a pretty sophisticated, personalised cover page and table of contents, all prepared and formatted for you. Well, that sounded pretty good, so we created FuseWorks to do just that, to automate the repetitive processes for us. So I want to take a moment to step you through how FuseWorks works and how we've used it to automate this entire process. So let's say I'm the accountant and I've just finalised the reports and the returns for a family group. So I open the FuseWorks app and I start a new collation. And we're presented with our firm's standard collation template. So this appears in 2 sections, and during the implementation process, it's tailored for your business and lists out each of the documents that are usually included in your report packs. So here on screen we can see group level items, and then below that we have entity level items. So reports specific to each entity that we like to include in our annual collations. So in this example, we're going to complete a collation for the Smith family group, and we use the search function to find those clients. FuseWorks is programmed to read this information straight from APS, depending on how your client data is structured. So it lists all of your entities from APS. We're going to select the client, and FuseWorks will pull through all of the related entities in that data group as well. So what FuseWorks does is it fills in the details about the year and the date, and it's also, in this example, pulled through what office we're in, because we may have multiple locations. It's pulled in the signing partner and the applicable group signatories for the client. So in this example, we've connected FuseWorks to APS for our practice management and Virtual Cabinet for our document management. And then once we're happy, what we do is we run the document lookup function, and FuseWorks jumps into our Virtual Cabinet in this case and identifies all of the existing documents for us. So here we can see it's located the group structure chart, and then for each of the entities from VC or from your document management platform, it's found the financial statements, the tax returns, and other applicable documents. So these items listed here are the most common that this business includes in their annual collations, but they won't necessarily be relevant to each client. So this can also act as a bit of a checklist. For example, if I know I should have financial statements, but perhaps I forgot to generate them or they aren't in VC, I can request for those to be prepared, and then I can simply rerun the lookup when I'm ready. So in this table, we also have the opportunity to enter things like the tax position. So this gets applied automatically and in the right position on a payment slip, and we can also assign signing responsibilities. And this is quite useful for how we deal with documents that require signature, or if you're using the Virtual Cabinet portal, which I'll touch on soon. So FuseWorks can also be programmed to automatically prepare your covering letter or your email to the client. So if you do take advantage of this function, we can quickly cross-check the details that have been pulled out of APS and then generate a covering letter using the merge button. So it's pulled these details about the client out of APS, and then it creates the cover letter for us. And you can edit this on screen. This is customized to your practice. If you want to type in a specific comment, you can do that. And you can see it's pulled in the details of the tax payable that we had entered before. So now we're ready to compile our annual collation. This screen gives us the options to select what packs we'd like to prepare. So in this example, we want to prepare a collation of all the documents, as well as a second pack of the pages we just need signed. So rather than a team member manually scrolling through and finding all of the electronic declarations or resolutions, FuseWorks is going to do that for us. We've also selected by default a number of options that this particular business likes. So there's letterhead applied, we've got the director's signatures on compilation reports, and the business's branding and styling is used throughout. This one also has sign here stickers automatically applied to the client signing fields. So when we're ready, we can just press our little magic button, compile, and FuseWorks gets to work. So FuseWorks finds files based on naming conventions, and if it ever gets confused or if there's more than one possibility, a prompt will appear. And within a matter of seconds, FuseWorks jumps into Virtual Cabinet or your document manager and finds each of those documents. It converts them to PDF where needed, and in this example, it's created 2 separate files. The first is a fully formatted report pack with our business's branding. So this is your branding, not the FuseWorks one. And it includes a cover page. We've got a formatted table of contents with hyperlinks and bookmarks. And this is all prepared automatically, so you don't have to worry about those typos and things that I was talking about earlier. Including pages like this just makes it really easy for our clients to navigate when they open the file up on their phone or on their computer. We can also see the electronic director signatures have been applied, and it's also been included in the cover letter that we created earlier. So then in this example, we've also got a second separate package of documents that the client is required to sign, marked up with sign here stickers and tags. And then from here, we can file these packs straight back into our document management system, VC, iManage, or whatever else you might be using. If you're just using a Windows file directory, you can save those as well. If you are using the Virtual Cabinet portal, we've also released an automatic publish to portal feature. And what this means is that you can create specific portal packs that you can publish directly from FuseDocs without needing to relocate any of those files in Virtual Cabinet. So using that feature, you can quickly and easily get those documents to your clients, and you can add additional files to the portal packs as well. You can edit the message they receive and you can personalize them quite a bit, and then publish those directly to the portal. So in just a couple of clicks, we've completed that entire client collation, and I think it is really a bit of a magic button for accountants. I know everyone in our accounting team and client service team was very happy when we came up with this solution. And like I said, it doesn't just stop at annual collations. So what we're seeing is that once teams see the power of automation, they start nominating new processes and workflows. So it might be company incorporation packages, covering letters, annual client checklists. The list goes on. So here's an example of one business in New Zealand using FuseDocs to automate the preparation and collation of the letter and document pack of everything that's included in a company incorporation. So all of these client data fields are pulled in from APS, and FuseDocs goes and locates each of the included documents from within the document management system and creates a letter where applicable. So the output in this example is an incorporation pack. The cover letter has been created for us, and then we also, you might be able to see on the side, we've got a separate pack of the documents that the client's required to sign. This example might look a little bit messy because I've shaded out a lot of the personal information, but this is an example of quite a complex cover letter where FuseDocs has picked up custom attributes from APS. So this business stores data about their fee levels and services for each client within APS as attributes. And FuseDocs has gone and pulled out that information to create quite a complex and comprehensive engagement letter and scope of work for a client. So just another example of the processes that can be automated using the data that you've already got sitting within your APS database. So we've now helped over 100 businesses or so across Australia and New Zealand create on average about 15,000 hours or more probably by now across their teams collectively. So that's a lot of report compiling that has been saved. Like I've been going on about, time isn't a renewable resource. It's not something that we can stockpile either. So I think it's important to reflect on what's actually happening with all of that extra capacity in your business and what do you do with that extra capacity. So what we're finding is that client service team members are now engaging in marketing activities and events coordination, like at Harris Black, where Administration Assistant Gerald is now working closer with his senior managers to support them in delivering client-facing initiatives. He's enjoying being able to assist with marketing roadshows and team member training and development, things that he didn't have the time for previously. And at another practice, after years of trying to get an initiative off the ground, the accounting and administration teams actually have the time now to get their client seminar program up and running. So that was one of their initiatives to support generating new business from their existing clients, and they've been able to carve aside time to be able to do that. And at our own practice, where this idea all came from, the team has introduced a number of new service lines, and those are actually led by team members who've been given the time to proactively manage their portfolios and have been able to recognise gaps and opportunities. And this is a type of fresh thinking and problem solving, not to mention job satisfaction and engagement that happens when we have the time and the space to do what we're actually good at. And it's those activities really that FuseWorks is here to help you to do. So since we launched FuseDocs, we founded FuseWorks to share the automation solutions that we've developed to do just that, to create time for you to focus on what matters for you and your practice. So our time is precious and we do need to care more about it. As leaders within our teams and our businesses, we need to care more about creating these types of opportunities, and for those around us and even ourselves, opportunities to be able to do more of the things we're good at. And really at the end of the day, that's being human. So if we can utilise technology like robotic process automation to do that, why wouldn't we? So start by mastering your data. Start good habits around naming structures and what you're already doing. Jump on the tools and ask your team what processes are driving them insane. And then let the robots take care of things behind the scenes, like churning out the annual client report packs, because that's what's going to leave us with more time to work on what we're good at and what we enjoy. And it's going to benefit our businesses as much as it will benefit the individuals that make it all happen. So again, thank you for giving up some of your most precious resource to me today to join us in this session. If you do have any questions, feel free to send them through now. And while we wait for those to come through, to say thank you for joining us. We're really pleased to extend a special offer for APS clients. So giving you 2 FuseDocs automated templates. So that might be your annual collation, or it might be your superannuation collations, or your ASIC company and corporation documents for the price of 1. So if you are interested in taking up that offer, after this session you'll receive a link to our website where you can view more information about FuseDocs. You can also book an online demonstration to explore how FuseDocs could work with your existing processes. And we'll include details, of course, of how to take advantage of this offer if it is of interest to you. So I might just check in with Tony now to see if we've got any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Trudy. So you will have to type your questions just to avoid any background noise or talking over each other. So if you type those in. A couple of common questions that we get in this area. So first and foremost, thank you, Trudy. It's always find it really interesting when it takes longer to explain a tool than it does when it's actually working in real time. So well done. So I guess a lot of practices that we deal with, they're sitting there going, well, our naming conventions aren't that great today. And whilst we're obviously going to bring our staff on a journey, that's going to take some time. So how does FuseDoc work if your naming conventions aren't that great from day one?
Yeah. So the stricter the better, of course, because it just means that FuseDocs can find those files automatically. But what we can actually do, if your conventions aren't as strong, you saw on screen there was an example where FuseDocs actually prompted us to select the file name, so it recognised that there were maybe multiple entries. So we can be quite broad in the terms that we use with FuseDocs. And we can also include a document lookup function where you can actually search inside your document management system for those documents. So of course that adds a couple of layers to the process, or adds a little bit of extra time. But yeah, certainly there is scope to kind of broaden those conventions if you're perhaps still ironing out the names and locations and the like.
Fantastic. What's another common one we have? So I think automation is fantastic, but sometimes, the outputs can be quite sterile if they're always the same and they don't take into account, the individual client that you're working on behalf of. So what are some examples of how FuseDocs could help a firm in streamlining and doing things in bulk, but still making the end product feel personalized to obviously the client in terms of the reporting pack?
Yeah, absolutely. I know there's one great example that I really like where the client's industry is recorded as an attribute in APS. So that industry might be agriculture, it might be professional services, or we've also, retail as an industry. And then what FuseDocs does is that based on that industry code, we'll apply a different set of branding and a different image to the report cover page based on that industry. So, for example, for agriculture, those report packs have a picture of a farm on the front. Retail, they've got shop assistants and shops on the front, and that's a really nice added touch. The other thing that it can do is, well, really whatever you've got sitting in APS, it can take that data and pull it out for you. So you might like to include the details of the job team inside the front cover of the report pack, for example, listing out the client manager and the director specific to that job, or the team contacts that the client is used to interacting with. So all of that information can come out, and adding that to your report pack for that specific client can go a long way just in adding that personalization and actually making it feel like it hasn't just been generated quickly, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. And it's a nice little plug as well, because just to bring people back, 11.2, Practice Management 11.2, has a tool specifically that allows you to create new pages within your APS Central console and add data fields within those pages. So if you're sitting there going, well, how do I get all these extra fields in APS so that I can start capturing some of this data to support this automation? Again, 11.2 will help you with that one. So Trudy, just having a look, I think that's all of our questions for today. So again, thank you to everyone for taking the time to sit with us, and thank you again, Trudy, for the presentation. And we'll obviously be in touch with some follow-up material for all of those who joined us today.
Fabulous. Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.